NFL Week 14's here, and we're breaking down everything you need to know. We've got the free bet of the week, injury watch, stock up, stock down, DraftKings Player of the Slate, and our primetime preview with a prop that you do not want to miss. Let's jump in.
The time is now for the Dr. Bob Sports Podcast. I am Tanner. I am our head of analytics, and I'm in my 9th year working alongside Bob, originating our NFL and college basketball bets. And today, as always, I'm joined by our digital media specialist, Grant, back from Thanksgiving in Minnesota.
Yeah, back in my original saddle, but looks like you're the guy on the road right now.
I am. Yep. I'm at the Cape Cod Cottage for the weekend. We're headed to the Christmas stroll in Nantucket on Saturday after our college basketball release, but I brought the whole battle station down. It's set up in the other room. We are locked and loaded for this weekend.
Yeah, I like the new Christmas background. But speaking of college basketball, our plays are 54% through the first month, and you're on pace to have 1,000 more best bets and opinions by the end of the season. So if you're interested in getting into those bets, head over to the website at drbobsports.com. It works out to less than $3 per play, but let's start here where we always start, and that is with the free bet of the week. And you are 31-17-1 on podcast sides and totals dating back to 2023 after Chicago won outright at home on Black Friday.
This week, we're going to go out to Arizona and we're going to take the under in the Rams-Cardinals game. So you look at it last week in the Rams game, they lost basically exclusively because of those 3 turnovers. Matthew Stafford had 2 interceptions. I expect him to be more conservative in response and protect the ball on Sunday. Stafford, he hasn't been wild this season. He's 5th in turnover-worthy play rate, so he's shown he can protect the ball, and Sean McVay will likely lean on the ground game as the Los Angeles passing attack doesn't really have a good matchup here against Arizona's defense with the 2nd highest cover 4 rate. Stafford ranks 27th relatively against cover 4 compared to other coverages. Additionally, the Cardinals rank 8th relatively against play action, and the Rams lead the NFL in play action rate. So I think the Cardinals kind of have the recipe here with those 3 safety looks to slow down the Rams passing game, and Sean McVay will just take those looks if the Cardinals are going to let them run the ball.
Well, it's becoming very evident that Arizona needs to get Kyler Murray back on the field to decide his future. I mean, the Cardinals are 1-6 in Jacoby Brissett's starts, and he's averaging 0.05 EPA per play.
Yeah, I think they got a little bit too excited after they won that Monday Nighter in Dallas. They're like, Kyler, go on the IR. We're better with Jacoby. They're not better with Jacoby. And the Rams are going to take away Jacoby's favorite target, Trey McBride, because the Rams are 3rd in EPA per target allowed to opposing tight ends. So I can see why the total is priced here if you just look at the season data, the control environment in Arizona on grass. But I just think schematically it should be lower, given the Rams are going to pound the rock on offense and take away Trey McBride on defense. I'd price this game at about 46.
All right, well, let's jump into our next segment here. We've got the injury watch, and it looks like the Jaguars are getting healthier on defense.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to get defensive tackle Eric Armstead back on Sunday. He's worth a half point. Armstead is 8th in pass rushing efficiency this season. And last week, they got back nickelback Jordan Lewis after he missed 3 games. Lewis is 6th in yards per cover snap allowed in the slot, and he's going to limit a banged up wide receiver Josh Downs on Sunday.
Well, Jacksonville's last remaining defensive starter out is edge rusher Trayvon Walker, and Walker has a 12.7% pressure rate compared to his backup, Dwayne Smoot, who has a 5.7% pressure rate. And looking at the Colts, they're going to be without their top 2 players on defense with defensive tackle DeForest Buckner and Sauce Gardner, who left last game in the first quarter with a calf injury.
Yeah, that's a really tough loss for the Colts. You kind of went all in with that trade for Sauce Gardner. Gardner is allowing 0.35 yards per cover snap fewer than backup Mekhi Blackman. We talked about how much of an upgrade that would be when they traded for Gardner. Now they have to go back to Blackman. Meanwhile, Buckner had a 12% pressure rate compared to backup Neville Gallimore's 7.4% pressure rate. So it's tough. The Colts are already skidding. Daniel Jones, he's got the fractured fibia. They lose their top 2 players on defense. It's not looking like a promising December in Indianapolis.
No, but Trevor Lawrence could be without his blindside protection as left tackle Walker Little is likely going to miss this very crucial game.
And the Colts are going to be without Buckner, but they still have Luatu Latu out there. He's 12th in pressures, and he would have a favorable matchup across from backup left tackle Cole Van Lanen. All right, moving over to the Browns, defensive tackle Malik Collins has been having a great season next to Myles Garrett, but he's now out for the year. Collins ranks 12th in pass rushing efficiency, and he's worth a half point to Cleveland's defense.
Okay, and looking at Cleveland's right tackle, Jack Conklin is out, and his backup, KT Leviston, has surrendered 5 sacks, ranking 13th most in the NFL, despite playing less than half the snaps this season.
So that's not good news for Shedeur Sanders, who has a league-low 29% success rate. For reference, Dylan Gabriel's success rate was 35%. So Sanders has been way worse down to down than Dylan Gabriel. I mean, plainly, the Browns are starting the worst quarterback in the NFL this week, and I have a hard time thinking they could be favored by more than a field goal over anybody, especially with 2 crucial starters out on both sides of the ball.
All right, well, looking at Buffalo, their offense is heading in the right direction with left tackle Deion Dawkins, right tackle Spencer Brown, and tight end Dalton Kincaid likely back in action this week.
And Dawkins is allowing a 6.6% pressure rate, major upgrade over the Bills' backup tackle Ryan Vandermark, who was surrendering a 9.3% pressure rate. Kincaid is averaging 2 yards per route run more than backup Dawson Knox, so that's going to be a big relief for Josh Allen to have him back on the field, and he's going to be going against a Bengals defense without Trey Hendrickson, whose impact is profound. Cincinnati's defense, we've talked about this, is allowing almost a yard per play more with Hendrickson off the field this season compared to when he's on the field.
Well, looking at Joe Burrow, he averaged .20 EPA per play in his first game back on Thanksgiving in Baltimore without T. Higgins, who will likely be back in uniform for this game.
Yeah, T. Higgins is worth about a point to Cincinnati's offense. Higgins is 16th in EPA per target this season.
All right, well, Buffalo edge defender Joey Bosa suffered a hamstring injury in the fourth quarter last game, and he did not return, so it looks like he's going to be sidelined this week.
And Bosa has been pretty good for the Bills, 18th in pass rushing efficiency, and he's worth 0.7 points according to our numbers.
All right, well, let's jump over to our next segment here. We've got stock up, stock down, and whose stock are you buying right now?
I'm buying the Vikings offense. It cannot be lower after last week. Max Brosner, a below average Big Ten quarterback, was indeed a downgrade from JJ McCarthy with just 3.3 yards per pass play last week. McCarthy's going to be back under center on Sunday, and Minnesota's also likely going to be getting back starting left tackle Shedeur Darrisaw, whose backup Justin School has surrendered 7 sacks. That's the 4th most in the league. He's only played about half the year. Now, center Ryan Kelly also went out in that Seattle's game. He got knocked out, but he should be back as well. So it's going to be a healthy offensive line, a full complement of receivers for JJ McCarthy. I expect Kevin O'Connell to build back McCarthy's confidence facing one of the worst defenses in the NFL. Certainly one of the worst McCarthy has faced so far. The Commanders are 30th in EPA per play allowed, and they're missing 4 starters on defense.
Yeah, stock is at rock bottom when there's a new meme of your starting quarterback every single day, but whose stock are you going to be selling this week?
I'm selling the Bears stock. So they're up to 7th in EPA per play since their bye and 2nd in EPA per designed rush. But I think Chicago's ground game is going to be limited by a Packers defense allowing just negative .12 EPA per rush. That's 6th in the league. Green Bay's defense also ranks 6th relatively against play action, and they're going to contain Caleb Williams, who has the 3rd highest play action rate. Caleb has done pretty well against the blitz this year, but he struggled against the standard pass rush, and the Packers don't blitz at all because they don't have to, because Micah Parsons is going to get home regardless. Parsons had 10 pressures and 2.5 sacks on Thanksgiving. That's good for a 39% pressure rate, his highest in a game since his rookie season. Parsons is going to wreak havoc in this game across from rookie left tackle Azu Tapio, who surrendered a team-high 4 pressures for the Bears in Philadelphia. That is a major mismatch for the Packers in the trenches.
Yeah, it is a nightmare matchup, but let's shift over to our next segment here. We've got our DraftKings player of the slate, and who are you putting in your lineups on Sunday?
Chase Brown at 6,700. So the Bills defense is allowing a 43.2% rush success rate, 25th in the league. They've really struggled there. It jumps to 50.8% against inside zone because they've been without interior defender Ed Oliver and linebacker Terrell Bernard. The Bengals have the 2nd highest inside zone rate in the NFL. Chase Brown is going to have a favorable matchup against that soft Buffalo interior.
All right, well, let's shift over to the weather of the week. And what are you seeing out there?
So there's going to be rain in both Florida games this week. The Jaguars game is forecasted to be a downpour. We have scoring conditions projected to be 6 points worse than average in that one. And Tampa's not much better. We have scoring conditions projected to be 5 points worse than average with some rain and high winds.
Yeah, and it looks like we could have light snow or flurries during the Buffalo game. And Tom Brady said on a podcast last year, give me a blizzard and a good pair of QB gloves, and I'm throwing for 400. The ball still spirals, and the DBs are the ones slipping all over the place. But do you think snow actually increases scoring?
Yeah, I've looked this up. I mean, snow does increase scoring as long as it isn't inches thick out there because it slows down the pass rush and causes players to slip when they're trying to make a tackle or cover, like Tom Brady mentioned. I mean, the wide receivers know where they're going. The defensive backs don't. Historically, games with light snow are 1 point higher scoring compared to the NFL average, and that includes games in domes. So I think this game can be a game to target in daily fantasy because the field might panic looking at the snow, but that's actually going to increase scoring because it's not going to accumulate too much here. It looks like about an inch or less.
I love that. I definitely think most people are going to be avoiding it because of the snow, but let's shift over to our next segment here. We've got our primetime preview, and we have Houston versus Kansas City, and the Texans can virtually lock up the postseason with a win, and the odds drop to about a coin flip with a loss, and then the Chiefs would have a 65% chance to make the playoffs with a win and 18% with a loss. So it's a must-win game for Kansas City and not an ideal time to possibly be missing 3 starters on the offensive line against Houston's defense with a 41% pressure rate, which is 4th.
I mean, the Chiefs' whole plan this offseason was how can we make sure Wanya Morris is not on the field? They used their first-round pick on a tackle and their highest free agent contract on a tackle. But here we are. Josh Simmons is out, and if Jawan Taylor is also out, it will be Wanya Morris across from Danielle Hunter, who is 6th in pressures. But it's not all bad news for the Chiefs' offense because Mahomes is averaging 36% more yards per attempt versus zone coverage compared to man, and Houston has the 5th highest zone coverage rate in the NFL.
All right, well, when covered by Trent McDuffie on Thanksgiving, CeeDee Lamb caught 4 or 5 targets for 44 yards and a touchdown, also drawing 3 penalties for 50 yards. And McDuffie allowed 65 receiving yards last week after he had not allowed 40 yards in any prior game this season. But do you think he's going to be able to bounce back against Nico Collins?
Just because, schematically the Chiefs cover 4 is a great approach to take against this Texans offense that's 31st relatively against cover 4. So I think they'll have McDuffie out on Collins with the safety help over the top, and they should be able to take him away on Sunday night.
Yeah, they need a big bounce back there. But the last thing I want to touch on is Tyreek's comment on Twitter about a drop pass to Arrowhead a few years ago. He said, everybody thinking that catch easy at night in them lights. And then Jesse Newell wrote a story about it. And it turns out that Tyreek was right. The overall drop rate during Arrowhead night games is at 8.5%, which is the highest in the NFL. I mean, the league average is 6.2%. And then the totals are 9-4 to the under at Arrowhead for night games in the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, I think there's actually something there. Are you going to be at this game on Sunday night?
Unfortunately, yeah, I think I'm going to be at this game, so pray for that. But I'm going to need you to give me a primetime prop for this game. And you are 33-23 on podcast props dating back to 2023. But where do you want to go?
Sorry, before we get there, dog was just barking.
Yeah.
I think he's taken care of. Keep this in. The prop is Rashee Rice over 6.5 receptions. So Rice has gone over this number in 4 of 6 games since coming off of suspension. There's a schematic reason to think it's going to continue. In last year's divisional round, the Chiefs threw 4 screens to Xavier Worthy to take advantage of Houston's pass rush getting up the field too quickly. Worthy was playing the Rashee Rice role in that game because Rice was out. Rice has 18 screen targets this year. That's 4th among wide receivers. And I think they'll even throw more screens to him than they did in last year's playoffs, given the state of their offensive line. I could see Rice going over this prop just on short passes and screens on Sunday night.
I love it. Well, that will do it for our Week 14 preview. If you're looking for more content, make sure to head over to drbobsports.com where you'll find Tanner's NFL analysis as well as Bob's college football write-ups. And then you'll also find our college basketball service that has plays releasing every single day until the end of March. So we will see you guys back next Friday to preview Week 15.